What's going on, people? It's your host, Run It Up, Rue, back with another episode of Real Sports Talk. And today we talking about the Dallas Cowboys and who's going to be the next head coach. Will it be an alpha or a beta? It's up to Jerry, but we're going to talk about it. So first of all, we all know Mike McCarthy caught the boot a couple days ago um, after denying the request from the Chicago Bears for a head coaching interview for no apparent reason but to mess with him one last time. Uh, Before I get into the candidates and everything, I do want to go over Mike McCarthy and how I felt about him overall as the Dallas head coach for the last 5 years. Up and down, a lot of up and down. When we made this hiring, one, it was under false pretenses. He lied to get the job. So that put a sour taste in my mouth to begin with him. But if we talking overall, I would have to say that it was a positive experience having Mike McCarthy as our head coach for the last 5 years, simply because he took us from being a 8-18 to, basically one of the best teams in the NFL, going back to back to back 12-5 seasons. That's not nothing to put your nose up in the air at, because it's hard to do. It's hard to win in the NFL. With that being said, though, over the years, I was able to identify a few things that I just feel like Mike McCarthy just wasn't good at. I think he is a player's coach. I do think that the players like dealing with him. I do think that the players enjoy playing for him and they work hard. With that being said, though, I think it was too much on the side of friends versus coaching these guys up. A few instances of that would be, not if not leading the league, tops in the league of penalties over the last 5 years since he's been here. On top of that, you're hearing the things in the locker room going on, players missing meetings and such, not being held accountable. So most of all, accountability and penalties, overall philosophy, scheme, his want to play call. Those are the five things right there that really turned me off from Mike McCarthy. And I'm happy that he's no longer a part of the team. With that being said, we are in a transition period. And it's funny because as a Dallas Cowboys fan, I'm always real with myself. And I think that anybody who's going to enjoy this video watching right now or watching in the future can appreciate about the Dallas Cowboys is that we're always in a hunt for a championship, regardless if our roster matches that, regardless if our head coach or our coaching staff in general is capable of getting us there and actually winning a big game. But with that being said, for most part, most of the Dallas Cowboys fans are logical thinkers and understand where this team is at. We just signed Dak Prescott to an extension. We just signed CeeDee Lamb to an extension. We have Micah Parsons. Shout out to Demarion Overshown. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery and able to get back to us, but he's been looking like a stud. We have some pieces, and we definitely have a window to win a Super Bowl, in my opinion. We have a window to win a Super Bowl. I don't believe Mike McCarthy was going to get us there. Hopefully, this new coach that comes in will be able to identify the key pieces that we need as far as players, can come in with some kind of scheme and philosophy that we can actually build an identity off of. Because if I could ask any one of you in the chat, in the comment section, what is our identity? I don't think any of us could come up with a real answer to that. We're stat chasers to the fullest. We lead the league sometimes in offensive categories and stuff like that. It really don't equate to anything as soon as it comes playoff time. So with that being said, let's go over a couple of these head coaching candidates and let's see if they make any kind of sense to me. So first off, we're going to start off with some of these college head coaches that have been reported to possibly, maybe get a phone call from Jerry Jones. All right, so first we got Steve Starkeesian, head coach of the Texas Longhorns. I'm gonna be honest with that. I think Steve need to stay in college. Nothing about his game, and let me just start off by saying I'm not even a huge college football watcher like that. I know Texas had a good season this year. They fell short, but honestly, I wasn't too impressed from the one or two games that I did see as far as coaching. I don't believe that he's a culture maker. Um, but with that being said, I don't really know the guy, so I don't want to say too much about him. But for me, it would be a no. Lincoln Riley would be another no for me, simply because I think everybody has their place, and I feel like Lincoln, Steve, these guys are better off in the college atmosphere versus having to deal with NFL locker rooms, grown men, and stuff like that. When I look at those guys, I don't necessarily see leaders of men. I do see maybe leaders of young men, but not grown men in an NFL locker room. David Shaw would be another one, former Stanford head coach. Now he's a personnel executive for the Denver Broncos. Um, that's just a name that's really low key. Nobody's really even talking about it. I don't think that he'll get the job at all. I don't even. He could qualify as a Rooney Rule interview. Um, Not a big fan of the Rooney Rule. But with that being said, that's the only way I could really see David Shaw getting an interview with the Dallas Cowboys. So now we're gonna go on to some head coaches with some actual NFL experience. Before I get there, I almost meant the big guy, Deion Sanders, Colorado. Deion Sanders, Colorado. Now I was just talking to my mans about this at work the other night. I'm not necessarily against Deion Sanders coming to the Dallas Cowboys, but what I will say is this. I believe Deion Sanders has gotten to where he is now off of bravado, off of personality, off of his marketing skills. He's a genius when it comes to marketing himself. And anybody who chooses to pay him to market their brand, he's a genius at it. Second to none. With that being said, I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't believe that he can coach football, that he can like the X's and O's. Is he a leader of men? I think he checks the boxes for those because he was a high level football player during his time, and he was able to take Jackson State, build that program up. He was able to go to Colorado, and he's building that program up. He just got the number one quarterback recruit this next upcoming season to commit to Colorado. So that says where people how people feel about Deion Sanders. So in my opinion, I think it would be a good hire. I think it'd be an interesting hire, definitely an entertaining hire. Um, so out of on a scale of 1 to 10, I would definitely give it right now, and especially since Jerry has been reported to give Deion that phone call already. I would give that right now a good 7 out of 10 as far as seriousness about him being the next head coach for the Dallas Cowboys. I will say one more thing about Deion Sanders. When it comes to Deion Sanders, it has been reported that, wherever he goes, he wants to go where his son goes, basically. I don't believe those rumors to be true. I think it's a good story. I think that if things all aligned, it would be perfect. Deion would love it. I think Shador would love it. Ultimately, though, I think Shador is his own man. He's going to have his own career. I don't see Deion as this overbearing father or parent who wants to latch onto his kids and follow them wherever they go or force them to follow him wherever he goes. So for me, I don't believe that Deion Sanders is requiring that whoever chooses him as a head coach, um, drafts his son. Either one of them. Um, so when it comes to Dion, like I said, I would give it out a 7 out of 10 as far as the seriousness goes. So that's something definitely to look out for. Another one would be Bill Belichick. Now, I do know he just signed a contract with North Carolina Tar Heels to be their next head coach. But we all know that before he even signed that contract, Bill was already testing the waters to see if there was interest from anybody out of the teams that were head coach needy, if they would, look his way. Unfortunately, the waters was cold, so he hopped on what was a sure thing, which was the North Carolina. Now, there is a buyout that drops to $1 million after June 1st. Um, I don't know if leaving beforehand, which would cost about $10 million, um, would stop an NFL team. I don't think $10 million will stop an NFL team from bringing Bill on if that's truly who they wanted to go with. For the Dallas Cowboys, I don't think so. And the reason why I don't think so is, one, if it was going to happen, I think he would have never went to North Carolina. That wouldn't have been a necessity. I think Jerry, if he really wanted, like, let's say if there wasn't as many interesting candidates right now, some that I'm gonna get into, a couple that I've already mentioned, such as Dion, um, Bill might have already had that phone call. Bill probably would have never went to college route. And he would, and like I said, if Jerry wanted him, he would have already been here, in my opinion. So for me, Bill is out. But it'd be interesting to see if he lands back in the NFL, because I think that's truly where his heart desires to be. I think it's just a lot going on in this new college atmosphere. It's not the same as like when Nick Saban stepped away from the NFL and went back to college football. There was no NIL. Basically, your program is your program and you run it as you see fit. Nowadays, you have a lot more say in what's going on in that college locker room due to the NIL. You got boosters and a whole bunch of things. You got kids with their own agendas. And so there's a lot of things that have to mesh. And I do think it's harder to build a culture right now in a college locker room due to NIL and kids having such choices and availability. Like, if it's not working out for me here, I can go somewhere else. And especially if you're a supreme talent right now, you're going to go where the money goes. So besides Bill, there's a couple of more. Aaron Glenn for the Detroit Lions, defensive coach. Um, Aaron Glenn, he's interesting. Reports lately have been coming out that he has a lot more going on within the Detroit Lions than even say a Ben Johnson, who is also a head coaching candidate right now, a possibility for the Dallas Cowboys. But when it comes to Aaron Glenn, I will say, from my personal perspective, I feel like Aaron Glenn has been doing a great job with the Detroit Lions from when he first got there to where they are right now. I do think it's night and day. The fact that they've gone through so much injuries, especially in the latter part of the season, he's been able to keep that group together and to keep it competitive. Um, Overall, I've heard, I don't have any sources yet, but keeping my ear to the ground, and I've heard that he is a leader of men. People do like playing for him. He's definitely a player's coach, for sure. So, and I've heard only good things about um, Aaron Glenn. For me, um, would I want him as my head coach right now? It's not a no, but I do feel like there's probably better candidates right now, and I'm also not sure where I stand as far as uh, offensive minded head coach versus a defensive minded head coach, because that is important right now. Because my team right now suffers from a lack of identity. We have key pieces on both sides of the ball, but as an overall unit, we don't have an identity. And so, whoever this head coach comes in, I need him to be able to lead men. And also, I need him to have some balls and say, this is what we're doing. We're going to stick to it. Not saying that he's not willing to make adjustments, but when it comes down to crunch time and we need certain things to happen, we have a certain way we go about getting that done. And hopefully it's a successful one. Joe Brady, offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. Since Joe Brady has taken over for the Buffalo Bills as offensive coordinator, the Buffalo Bills have been moving the ball, running the ball at a very efficient rate. Joe Brady's play calling, at first, it took him a little time to get comfortable in that seat. But once he did, man, my boy is cooking. Joe Brady is he's not being tossed around right now as like one of the favorite head coaches right now, candidates. But pay attention to Joe Brady. If not this head coaching cycle, I could definitely see him maybe getting a chance next season. Yeah, but one of these coaches right here, this coach right here, Liam Cohen, offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, this is interesting to me. In no way, shape, or form do I feel like he'll get the job. Actually, I think he'll be the offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay next season. But what he's doing out there for the Tampa Bay Bucks is in my opinion truly phenomenal. The guy has been able to take Baker Mayfield, and Baker had a good season last season. With the head coach of the Carolina Panthers was his offensive head coach. Now you have Liam Cohen, and it feels like it wasn't a drop off, but a step up. Liam has been able to call the right plays at the right time. Also, he has been able to cultivate that offense to move in a way that Baker Mayfield is not a liability. He's taken a lot of the thinking away from Baker, and just allowing him to play free. So as far as it's not a lot to say about him, right? Because before this year, I didn't know anything about the guy, so I'm not about to green light him or gaslight him like he's this low key genius at offensive coordinator. But I do think that he is doing a hell of a job out there. So shouts out to Liam Cohen. I don't think he'll have an opportunity here, but I do see him having an opportunity somewhere. Now, the next head coach right here is an interesting one as well. Cliff Kingsbury, right now offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders, former head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. So he does have that on his record right there. I don't know how much he wants to lean on that, but I do think there was more going on than just what he was bringing to the table for the Arizona Cardinals. But as far as he's been in Washington with Jaden Daniels, now I do think Jaden Daniels is one of those guys, but I will say that the offense that he's playing in has been put together in a great way for him, and it's utilizing all of his talents. And for the most part, man, he's calling plays that keeps them ahead of the chains. So shouts out to Cliff Kingsbury. I think he is ready for his next opportunity. I think he's a very interesting head coaching candidate right now. If not this cycle, I can definitely see him next season, especially with Jaden Daniels executing the plays that he calls. He might look like a genius. And depending on how far they go this season, he might actually get an opportunity to be a head coach. But we'll see. Now, I also want to keep in mind, though, it's important to remember that when it comes to being the head coach for the Dallas Cowboys, history shows us that Jerry likes his guys a certain way, right? Like, let's not be fooled here. If you think back, if it wasn't Jimmy Johnson or Bill Parcells, there really has not been any alphas in the building. Mike McCarthy is not an alpha, right? He's King Beta. He's King Beta. And the reason why I call him King Beta is because he came hat in hand for this job. He's a Super Bowl winning head coach, but he was one of the least paid head coaches in the NFL. That tells me you don't really believe in what you could have brought to the table. And I understand there's limited amount of jobs in this profession here, And so getting one of those jobs is an extremely hard task to do. So in no way, shape, or form am I taking shots at him for doing what he had to do to secure that bag. But at the same time, I do want to say this: like, I don't need anybody coming in line in our face anymore. And more importantly, I need Jerry to recognize bullshit when he's being told it. This next head coach, he has to come in and be able, like I said before, he has to be able to be a leader of men, right? And he must come in and form an identity for this team. So when it comes to being an alpha versus a beta, the positive thing I will say about these coaching candidates, there's a couple alphas. Now I will say there's a lot of betas too. There's a lot of betas. And one thing I'm concerned about is if Jerry doesn't go the Deion Sanders route, or he doesn't go Brian Flores right now, currently defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, that just took a badass L in wild card weekend, but I kind of seen that coming anyway. But that shouldn't dim his light, because I think Brian Flores was blackballed in Miami simply because the owner slash GM wanted their guy, which was Tua Tonga Vailoa. I've only had to say his name in my head. I actually never tried to say it out loud, but Tua Tonga Vailoa, instead of like quarterbacks like Justin Herbert was left on the board when Miami picked that year. Um, and from there, it was just like a sour note for Brian as far as in that building dealing with Tua. He just thought he was soft. He couldn't win with him, and so far, he's proven him right. Brian Flores, to me, is a leader of men. To me, will come in and form an identity for this team. The problem I feel with Brian Flores is he wouldn't be one of Jerry's guys. Jerry can understand the hire. Jerry can understand why we are hiring him. Um, but I don't really see him and Jerry getting along like that. Now that's just my opinion, but I don't see him and Jerry getting along like that simply because Brian is an alpha. And more importantly, he's not going to sugarcoat how he feel, and he's going to go aggressively at everything he wants. And I'm not sure if him, Jerry, and Steven can get along. Um, in my opinion, out of a 1 to 10 for Brian Flores, I would give it about a 4 or a 5, but that's more on the part of Jerry and Steven than Brian not being fit for this job. Because I think he'd be a hell of a head coach, honestly. Um, so with that being said, Jerry has a very important job to do. Um, he has to pick the right head coach. He has to pick the right head coach. He has to understand that, man, we tired of listening to your shit. We tired of listening to your shit, Jerry. I don't know if it's because of age, but Jerry ain't even Jerrying like he used to. Jerry used to do some shit, be like, yo, that man crazy. Yo, he wild, son. Yo, that's my owner, yo. He gonna keep it real. He gonna, you know what I'm saying? He's entertaining this, that, and the third. But after a while, that shit just got old. It just got old. And now you hearing Jerry do things that's just like not really Jerry-esque. You know, I feel like he's clutching that purse, like he don't want to spend no money. He don't want people to have listen, Jerry, hey man, from Run It Up to You. Tighten the fuck up, man. Please tighten up. Tighten up. Because as a Dallas Cowboys fan, we are needy. We are needy. We need you to stop with the bullshit. Please. Stop running your mouth to these cameras. Let your head coach be the head coach. Stop allowing these players to backdoor the head coach. Come holler at you about what's going on in the locker room when that should be landing at the coach's desk. Not yours, Jerry. Not yours. And Jerry, I need you to hire an alpha. I'm talking to you straight up, Jerry. We need you to hire an alpha, a leader of men. Somebody who could come in and get the job done. Somebody, when we're playing somebody over 500, when we playing a team over 500, we ready to put belt to ass. That's what we need. I'm tired of coaches getting up on that press conference talking about how well the other team was and how more prepared they were than we are. That's what I need. I need Jerry to tighten up. I need Jerry to let go. I need Jerry to let go. I need Jerry to step back so we can actually start blaming Steven for the shit what's going on, because I don't even believe Jerry is alone. I think his son going right along with him. I was surprised that they let Mike McCarthy go. Happy, but surprised. Why? Not that he wasn't deserving of firing. It's just that Jerry don't never do what's right. Jerry do what Jerry want to do. So when it come down to these head coaching candidates, I'm interested in who we pick for sure. But the first thing I'm going to be paying attention to, is it an alpha or is it a beta? Is he somebody that's going to come in and lead men, or is he somebody that's going to come in and do what Jerry say? Is he going to be his puppet? To me, that's what's most important. To me, that's what's most important. We got a lot going on as far as draft coming up. So I don't think this is something, we already wasted a week playing in Mike McCarthy face when we could have been interviewing head coaches, or at least lining those interviews up so that we're not at the back of everybody's interview list. Mike Vrabel went to New England. That was already seen. We seen that shit coming, right? But right now is when people are filling out their itineraries and know who and where they need to be for these interviews. And I don't need to be fourth and fifth on people's list, because a good coach should be able to be recognized. Cream rise to the top. So how many times is that coach going to be able to walk in somebody else's establishment, sit down, talk X's and O's, and walk away without being taken up? There's a lot of head coaching candidates out here in this cycle, but there's not a lot that can fit the Dallas Cowboys. Let's stop playing. Let's get into this. Let's get into Steve Carroll. Forgive me. Pete Carroll, former head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. 70 plus. Right up Jerry Alley. Now, age aside, Pete Carroll, not mad at it. Wouldn't be mad at it. Honestly, I would not be mad at it. And the reason why I wouldn't be mad at it is because, one, Pete Carroll know how to build. Pete Carroll know how to hold people responsible and accountable. Pete Carroll knows his X's and O's. He knows what philosophy he bringing in offensively, and he knows what he wants and expects defensively. Let's not forget, Dallas Cowboys poached Chris Richard, trying to bring that Legion of Doom to Dallas, right? I'm not sure how much Pete had involved with the defense, but he was the head coach. He takes all the credit. He has to know something. Interesting. Pete Carroll, 70, but with more energy than me. Sometimes. But Pete Carroll, to me, I feel like would be maybe third on my list. First, it would go Dion. For me, first it would go Dion, then it would go Brian Flores, and then I can see Pete Carroll. And the reason why I say Pete Carroll once again is because, like I said, he's a leader of men, and he has certain philosophies that's set in stone for him, that's worked for him, and I feel like it's still an updated version of what's going on in the NFL today. Mike McCarthy was running shit from the 1990s West Coast offense, and it's just not clicking in today's age. You know what I'm saying? It's just not clicking. Um, so yeah, I mean, that wraps up pretty much all the head coaching candidates that I wanted to discuss with all y'all. Once again, I appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode of Real Sports Talk with your boy Run It Up Ro. And yeah, so as far as this channel goes, I'm learning, it's growing. Still on the hunt for 50 subscribers so I can activate that live and then hopefully get to talk to you guys. Through the chat and super chats. But until then, I'm enjoying my time, taking my time, growing organically. Shouts out to Law Nation, building the plane while it's in the air, baby. Um, yeah, but pay attention for hit that alert button. Make sure you pay attention for the next video that I drop. It's the off season for us, baby. So all we gonna be doing is talking Dallas, and we gonna get it right. Once again, it's your boy Run It Up Ro, and we keep it easy.